The snow hadn't stopped falling all morning, but inside her tiny apartment, McKenzie Thompson was moving with quiet excitement. The pie had just come out of the oven, bourbon pecan, her father's recipe. The smell reminded her of simpler times, of laughter, of safety. On the couch sat a neat stack of gifts, each one carefully chosen. She hadn't just bought things, she thought about them. About the people who might finally see her again tonight, really see her, not just glance past her at a dinner table. She changed outfits twice, then a third time. Finally, she settled on a forest green sweater dress and gold earrings. Subtle but confident, festive but not flashy. In the mirror, she clipped on her grandmother's necklace, the same one she wore to graduation, a gift from her dad. She hadn't worn it in years. "This time will be different," she whispered to her reflection. Outside, the world was white and quiet. Inside, she still believed in family. McKenzie balanced the pie carrier in one hand, the gift bag in the other. Her heels tapped softly against the snow-cleared path leading to Aunt Laura's front door. The house looked like something out of a Christmas catalog. Golden lights, perfect wreath, soft music leaking through frosted windows. She took a breath, pressed the doorbell. The chime echoed inside, and for a moment, silence. Then footsteps. The door opened, and there she was, Aunt Laura. Red lipstick, pearl necklace, eyes like winter. For a split second, McKenzie thought she saw surprise, maybe even welcome. But then, the eye roll. "We don't want you here," Laura said, her voice smooth and sharp. "Go ruin someone else's holiday." Behind her, McKenzie saw it all. Her mother adjusting the silverware, Connor laughing with a wineglass in hand, Amber scrolling her phone, smiling. Warmth, laughter, light. And not one of them looked at the door. Not one of them saw her. McKenzie opened her mouth to speak, to ask, to plead, to remind them she was invited. But she didn't. She simply whispered, "Got it," turned. And as she walked down the lantern-lit path, the door slammed behind her, louder than it needed to be. She didn't cry right away. McKenzie walked slowly back down the path, the snow crunching beneath her boots, the pie still warm in her arms, the gift bag pressing against her coat. She had imagined this night so many times, but never like this. The street was quiet, the kind of quiet that hurts. She reached her car, opened the passenger door, and gently placed the pie and gifts on the seat. Her hands were shaking. Her breath fogged the window. Still no tears. Until she sat in the driver's seat. Until she saw the reflection in the rearview mirror, her own face small and stunned and alone. And then it broke. The tears came in a wave, silent, violent. Her shoulders shook as she gripped the steering wheel, eyes closed, mouth open, but no sound, just pain. She fumbled for her phone, pressed one name, Dad. When he answered, she couldn't even speak, just sobbed, gasped, struggled to breathe. "McKenzie," he said, voice tight with concern. "What happened? Are you okay?" They don't want me," she choked. "They decided, after Mom invited me. Where are you?" "Just around the corner. I can't drive." "Stay put," he said. "I'm coming." 20 minutes. That's what he said. But McKenzie knew he would have come for her in 2. McKenzie leaned forward, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. Her chest heaved. Her fingers were cold. Her makeup was smeared, but she didn't care. Nothing mattered anymore except the voice she needed to hear. She unlocked her phone with trembling hands, scrolled past every name that didn't feel safe until she reached the one that always had. Dad. She hit the call button. He picked up on the first ring. "Hey, Mac, what's wrong?" But she couldn't get the words out. She gasped, cried, swallowed back a sob, but it broke free anyway. Take a breath, sweetheart. They don't want me." "Who doesn't?" "All of them," she whispered. "Mom, Laura, everyone. I was at the door. I saw them. She slammed it. She said I wasn't wanted. The silence on the other end turned hard. Where are you? Just a block away. I pulled over. I can't drive. Don't move, David said, his voice low but steady. I'm coming. He didn't say it'll be okay. He didn't ask, what did you do? He just said the one thing she needed most in that moment. I'm coming. The headlights lit up her face before she saw the car. David Thompson pulled into the snowy parking lot like he'd been driving with purpose the whole way, because he had. He didn't park gently. He stopped fast. The car door opened, and there he was, in that old gray coat she used to cling to as a child. His face lined with age, eyes lined with worry, but still the safest place she'd ever known. McKenzie got out and walked straight into his arms. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. He held her like he had when she was 6 and scraped her knee, like he had when she didn't get into her dream college, like he always did, steady, silent, unshakable. Her voice cracked into his coat. I shouldn't have gone. Yes, you should have, he replied gently, because you hoped, and that's never something to be ashamed of. She looked up at him through teary eyes. I was so stupid. No, he said firmly, brushing her hair from her face. You were brave. A moment passed. Then, with calm certainty, he said, We're going back. She blinked. What? We're going back to that house. Dad, no. Yes. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You won't go back alone this time. No, Dad, McKenzie said, pulling back, her voice breaking. I can't face them again, not after that. David didn't respond right away. He just looked at her, steady, unshaken. Then he placed both hands on her shoulders. McKenzie, you don't have to face them. But you just said you don't have to face them alone. Her breathing hitched. But they'll twist it. They always twist it. Not this time. He reached into the back seat, grabbed the pie and the bag of gifts she had left behind. You came tonight with nothing but love. They met it with rejection. Let's give them something else to face now. She stared at him, uncertain. What if they slam the door again? He gave a faint smile, the kind that said he'd walked through worse storms. Then they'll see me standing there too. McKenzie swallowed. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about proving them wrong. This was about truth, about not letting lies be the last word, about not shrinking, not anymore. She nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. David opened the car door. Let's go. And just like that, the car turned back onto the road. Same street, same house. But this time, everything was different. The car stopped at the curb. The house looked the same, festive, bolden, full of cheer. But McKenzie didn't feel any of that now. She felt her father's presence beside her, steady as a mountain, and the pie box in her lap trembling with her breath. They stepped out of the car. David didn't hesitate. He walked right up to the front porch, snow crunching beneath his boots. McKenzie followed behind her, heart pounding so loud she could barely hear the Christmas music from inside. The wreath on the door sparkled under the porch light. David raised his fist and knocked hard. Not once, not tentative. 3 knocks, sharp, final. The wreath shook. The jingle bells tied to it rang out like alarm bells. Inside, voices quieted. Footsteps approached. Then the door opened, and Aunt Laura appeared. Her smile froze before it formed. She hadn't expected David. She hadn't expected this. She stood there in silence, eyes wide, lips parting but saying nothing. David met her stare without blinking. You owe my daughter a conversation, he said. His voice wasn't loud. It was low, controlled, and impossible to ignore. Laura's mouth opened, but David didn't wait. He stepped forward, the cold air swirling behind him as the door swung wider. And then, loud enough for everyone inside to hear, he said, "Your sister turned our daughter away from Christmas dinner. She invited McKenzie, then slammed the door in her face." From the hallway, heads turned. Karen appeared first, holding a wine glass, eyes narrowing as she spotted David, and then McKenzie standing just behind him. "David?" she asked, confused. "What's going on?" Laura tried to block her view. "Nothing, Karen. They were just leaving." "Actually," David raised his voice a notch, "we're here because McKenzie was invited and then humiliated." Gasps came from the living room. Connor peeked around the corner. Amber stood up from the couch. All eyes were now at the door. Laura told her the family had discussed it and decided she wasn't welcome. She told her to go ruin someone else's holiday. Laura's face went pale. Karen looked at her sister, then back at McKenzie, then down at the gifts in McKenzie's arms. And finally to the pie. "McKenzie," she whispered. "You came." "Of course I did," McKenzie replied. "You invited me." The silence was suffocating. No one could pretend they hadn't heard. "You said he abandoned us," Connor's voice cut through the silence. The room had gone still. David turned, locking eyes with his son. "I wrote to you, Connor, every birthday, every Christmas. I even left messages. Laura blocked me." All eyes shifted to Laura. She shook her head, laughing nervously. "That's ridiculous! I never—" "Then explain this." David pulled a worn envelope from his coat pocket. "Your graduation letter. Sent. Returned." He handed it to Connor. The postmark was from 4 years ago. Connor stared at it. His hands trembled. "I never saw this." Amber stood next to him, pale. "You told us he cheated on Mom, that he just left." David's voice cracked. "I stayed in the city just to be close to you all. But every time I tried to reach out, emails, texts, cards, nothing came back." Karen turned slowly to Laura. "Did you really block him from his own kids?" Laura's face hardened. "I was protecting them." "From their father?" Karen's voice rose. "Or from the truth?" The room spun in disbelief. Connor backed away. Amber covered her mouth. "So, all these years, we hated him for nothing?" The truth hit harder than betrayal, because it was chosen. And now, no one could look at Laura the same way again. Laura's voice cracked. "I was protecting the family." She looked around the room, expecting someone, anyone, to back her up. But no one spoke. David crossed his arms. Connor stared at the floor. Amber didn't even blink. Karen stepped forward. For years, she'd let Laura take charge holidays, decisions, even what stories were told. But now, protecting the family, Karen's voice was calm, too calm. Or were you just controlling it? Laura's face twitched. "You were a mess after the divorce, Karen. You couldn't handle the kids. Someone had to keep order." Karen's eyes flashed. "So you kept them from their father? You lied to me. You told me he moved on. You said he stopped caring." Laura swallowed. "He hurt you. I didn't want to see you go through it again." "No," Karen snapped. "You didn't want me to heal." A gasp came from Amber. Karen turned to her children and then to David. "I let her decide everything, even how I felt about you." David's eyes softened. "You were grieving. I never blamed you." Karen looked at McKenzie. "But I blamed you for being close to him, for not being angry like the rest of us." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I see now the only one who held on to truth was you." Connor had been quiet, still holding the envelope, still shaking. Then he pulled out his phone. "There's one thing I never understood," he said, tapping into old backups. "Dad used to send me texts even when I never replied." He scrolled until, here, he turned the screen to the room. Dozens of unsent messages, drafts, attempts, all from David Thompson. Some were simple. "Happy birthday, Connor. I'm proud of you." Others were desperate. Please talk to me. I miss you." Connor's jaw clenched. "You said he never tried." He looked straight at Laura. "You told me he moved on, that he didn't want us." His hand trembled, but his voice didn't. "You didn't protect us. You poisoned us." Laura opened her mouth, but no words came. Amber stepped closer to her brother. "We believed you, every word." Connor nodded, then turned to McKenzie, the sister he once resented. "I'm sorry," he said, "for not asking questions sooner." Amber stood frozen. Her lips quivered, but no sound came. "I never got anything," she whispered. "No letters, no cards. I thought he didn't care." She looked at Laura. "You said he forgot us." Laura said nothing. Amber's face crumbled. "I waited every year, hoping." Then the dam broke. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. McKenzie didn't hesitate. She crossed the room, knelt down, and wrapped her arms around her sister. "I missed you every single day," she whispered. "Even when you hated me, I never stopped loving you." Amber held on like a child. "I didn't know, Kenzie. I didn't know." "I know," McKenzie said softly, "but now you do." And in that moment, the lies died, but the family began to live again. The room went still. Karen stood up, not trembling, not asking for permission. She looked at Laura not as a sister, but as the woman who had stolen years from her children. "This is my house," Karen said, voice low and unshakable. "Leave." Laura froze. Then rage. "You're making a mistake. You'll regret this." But Karen didn't flinch. She walked to the door, opened it. "You've already taken enough from this family." Laura stomped toward the exit. "You think they'll forgive you? They'll see one day you were weak." Karen turned her back. "Maybe, but at least I'm not cruel." Laura screamed, but the door slammed shut. And for the first time, it wasn't McKenzie left on the porch. It was Laura. The ride was quiet. No one spoke, but no one needed to. The car was full. McKenzie, her mom Karen, Connor, Amber, and David behind the wheel. No Laura, just family. When they reached David's apartment, it wasn't grand. The carpet was old, the lights flickered, but he laid out napkins like fine linen. McKenzie brought the pie from the car, still warm. They ate on the floor, knees touching, laughter breaking through. And then stories came. Amber, "I used to draw cards for Dad, then threw them away before mailing. I was scared." Connor, "I told my therapist I hated Dad. I didn't know why." Karen, almost a whisper, "I let Laura speak for me. I thought keeping peace meant staying silent." David didn't judge. He just listened, like he always had. McKenzie looked around the tiny room and smiled through tears. "It's not the tree or the gifts. This is Christmas." They didn't have a tree, but McKenzie still opened her bag and pulled out boxes she'd wrapped with care. One by one, she handed them out. For Connor, a framed photo of them fishing with Dad at age 7. "You said you lost it, but I kept it." For Karen, a hand-painted ornament of their old house, the one before the divorce. "It still means home to me." For Amber, a soft blue scarf with tiny sketches sewn in. "Every drawing's a memory," McKenzie said, "of us, before things fell apart." Amber sat frozen. Then she pulled something from her own bag, a tattered notebook, edges curled, pages filled with pencil sketches. "I drew every time I missed you." She placed it in Mackenzie's hands, whispering, "I didn't stop loving you either." Mackenzie opened the book. 2 little girls drawn over and over, laughing, whispering, hugging. No words, just the truth. And this time, everyone cried, but not from pain, from healing. Karen didn't move back with David. She didn't return to Laura. She moved into a small studio apartment near the college campus. Just her a kettle and a calendar she finally filled on her own terms. Every morning she walked to the community college and taught English Lit. She smiled more, wore her old bright scarves again. She even laughed, not politely but deeply. Sometimes students asked, "Are you new here?" And Karen would smile, eyes clear and steady. In a way, yes, very new. No longer the sister behind Laura, no longer the woman lost between guilt and silence. Now she was simply herself. Connor stopped trying to impress anyone. He paused law school, he picked up a used camera from a thrift store and started walking, just walking and clicking. Every week he went to therapy. And for the first time, he spoke without trying to sound smart. "I don't hate my dad," he once said. "I just didn't know who he was. Now I want to." His Instagram grew filled with black and white shots of quiet streets and candid faces. His bio now read, "Learning how to see, not just look." Amber submitted her sketchbook to an art school. She got in, and she dyed her hair bright green the next day. She painted feelings, not what was pretty, but what was real. One canvas simply had this scribbled in red, "I missed my sister." She lived in a tiny loft with mismatched chairs and dream catchers in the windows. But every week she called McKenzie, and for the first time in years, they laughed like sisters again. McKenzie didn't rush to forgive everyone. She didn't open all the doors. She just closed the ones that kept hurting her. She stopped over-explaining, stopped trying to fix what didn't want to heal. "If I have to beg to be loved, it's not love," she whispered to herself one morning. She moved into her own place with sun-washed windows, a messy kitchen, and peace. That's where she met Kyle, a quiet man with soft eyes who never asked her to shrink. He listened more than he spoke. He never flinched when she mentioned the pain. "You're not broken," he said once. "You're rebuilt." They weren't perfect, but they were real, and for the first time, McKenzie didn't have to earn love. It just stayed. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. Laura showed up at Karen's apartment with cookies and a painted-on smile. "I thought maybe we could start over, for the holidays, for the family." Karen didn't blink. McKenzie stood behind her, arms folded. "You didn't lose a family, Laura," Karen said. "You tried to own it." Laura's smile cracked. She turned to McKenzie. "Sweetheart, I never meant to." McKenzie shook her head. "You meant every word, every silence, every time you twisted things to make me feel small. And this year, I choose peace." Karen closed the door. No slamming, just click. This time, the one locked outside wasn't McKenzie. It wasn't Christmas Eve. No glittering tree. No perfect table. Just a quiet Wednesday night. Karen brought mashed potatoes in a chipped bowl. Connor brought his camera and took silly candids. Amber spilled cranberry sauce on the floor and laughed till she cried. Kyle offered to do the dishes and actually did. McKenzie set the table herself. No place cards, no assigned seats. Just a circle of people who showed up for each other. "You don't have to earn your place here," her father said, lifting his glass. "You already belong." McKenzie looked around. No one was pretending. No one was trying too hard. No one was missing. And for the first time in years, she wasn't just at the table. She was home. Have you ever stood outside a door that was never meant to open for you, only to realize you were meant to build your own? Because sometimes the pain of being left out is just life's way of pushing you back toward yourself, toward truth, toward peace, toward people who see you not as a burden, but as home. McKenzie found her answer. Now, maybe it's your turn. Share your story in the comments. Who helped you build your door? Sometimes the people you bend over backwards for will still close the door on you. And that's okay. Because family isn't just who shares your DNA. It's who shows up for you, without conditions. You don't have to beg for a seat at a table that makes you feel small. You can build your own and invite only those who bring peace, not performance. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You just need the right room. If this story touched your heart even just a little, hit that subscribe button and join our growing family. Every week, we share real stories that remind you you are never alone, and your story matters. Turn on the bell because your healing journey starts here. Comment below, what part of this story hit you the hardest?